Testing, testing. This is Stefano Virgili from VOX podcast. I'm very happy today we have John Kamara with us at the podcast together with Diane Ha, both of them in Nairobi. Hi, guys.
Hi.
I met John in Malta in 2018 at the World Blockchain Summit, if I recall correctly, or World Blockchain Conferences. The name were pretty much the same. And we met randomly, really, at the business lounge of the airport in Malta. And while we were sipping a drink together, we discussed about financial inclusion back then, and also how to help people in emerging countries, especially the unbanked and underbanked, to get a fairer access to credit. At that point in time, you were working at a project called Jamboree. At that time, I just started working at a project called Pocket Money. We have evolved ever since. A lot of time has passed by in our technology, because time in technology passed very fast, right? And I kept reading about you on all over the news in Africa and beyond. John, introduce yourself, from what brought you to Ireland, or what brought you to Africa, whichever come first, and tell us also about your current business, which is Afya Rekod.
Yeah, thanks, Stefano. I mean, that meeting in at the airport lounge was quite interesting, actually. You still owe me coffee because you're supposed to pay for the coffee. So let's not forget that bit. I'm gonna collect. But basically, I spent most of my grown-up years in Ireland from when I was in my late teens. But before that, I grew up in Lagos, in Nigeria. And also, having lived in an English-speaking country, my goal was always to be able to explore the value of technology in life, just generally. I was supposed to be a medical doctor. So I was going to go to med school. I got into med school. I never went, a number of different reasons for that. Then went to Ireland, went to the US, then moved back to Europe. I was in college, I dropped out, so all that good stuff that you do. But Ireland was a place that's kind of like shaped my entrepreneurship ideas.
Ireland.
Yes.
That's the last place I would expect this would happen. But go on, sorry.
Yeah, so, first started working in Ireland in Yahoo in the early 2000s. Worked for Conduit, which is also a telecom company. Then obviously a lot of the American companies started coming to Ireland slowly. Then I worked for Google in the early days. Then, off the back of that, I also started branching hard into tech. So I started learning myself how to code because I was very interested in coding. Just to understand from a business perspective why developers would tell me something and it would mean another thing. So I did that. Then I went to work for BMC Software, which is a software company in Europe. Then I went to the Caribbean. I worked for Digicel in the telco space as well. So, and always wanted to move around the world. So I started working for a number of different other type of companies. And in 2010, then I worked in gaming as well for AAA Sports and Full Tilt Poker as well. Again, on the strategy, business, and product side of things. Then in 2010, decided to venture into my first startup. And we built a keyword business. We mapped over 5-10 million keywords to build an ad tech business on top of YouTube. So that was an interesting time, but obviously we knew that we were going to get in trouble with YouTube. So, but that was the whole idea, to get into trouble, actually.
And so, you did.
Yeah, we did. And it was also successful, and we sold the business because of that trouble. So the strategy was set from day one. Like, this is what we want to do. And we want to make sure that, we get into some kind of media trouble. And once we do that, everybody will see what we've done. So and that sort of happened, and then we had a buyout, and so that was my first startup. So being able to sell, for me it was like, wow, this is great. But obviously before then I'd gone to startup bootcamp in Ireland. I've gone to the Enterprise Island project on entrepreneurship, those sort of things. Then continued with developing different types of ideas. Then in 2015, after taking a year off just to see what to do next, I started doing work in AI a little bit, just to understand, how you can use a lot of sequencing to create variables around insights of what you understand once you have data. So that's what really interested me in AI, first of all, was, how does this work, for you to be able to run, variables of 5,000 different types of modules in seconds, whereas it would take the human mind 2-3 years to be able to do that if you had all these developers and everything. So then I moved back to Africa in 2015, 2016, because I had never really worked in Africa. I left when I was young. So it was always the last continent. I've lived and worked in every other continent in the world. So it was like the last place, it's my home, decided to move back. Everybody said I was crazy. Like, what are you going to do? There's nothing in Africa.
But that's precisely why, there's so much opportunity for growth.
Yeah, well, for most people in, the developed world.
Yeah, they'd be like, why are you
going to Africa? Don't you watch CNN? There's no food. There's nothing. So I moved back and started looking at different sectors to work in: financial services, fintech. Was a huge one, which is how we did met. And I started participating in a lot of engagements around, AI and blockchain, and obviously the speaking. I started doing a lot of talking around being an entrepreneur and coming from that perspective, how you actually use technology to really augment growth rather than just building technology. I come from a business side of technology. How do you use that to really augment growth? Then looked at specific sectors: financial inclusion, fintech space, which we're still involved in. But I think that kind of moved me fast forward into 2019, where I think also it was, for me, was a purpose in life. And that's a very important part of it. I think 2019 is a very important part of my life, because I was fully active in the fintech space, which I still am, but something happened in 2019. My friend died, a very personal thing to me, and I had another really bad situation as well. And I went to figure out, why did this person, just my age, perfectly fine, what happened? Then they told me, oh, he had a seizure in hospital. Before they knew it, he was in a coma and he died. So you dig deeper and say, okay, what was the cause? And said, okay, well, anyway, we did find out that it was basically lack of data, lack of medical health data. If they had just had a simple piece of information about him, they wouldn't have given him the drugs they gave him, and he wouldn't have gone into a coma, and he wouldn't have died. Because there was no data when they brought him to the hospital. There was no place where they could find any data about him and those type of things. So
I'm sorry to hear that.
Really,
I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah, that really affected
It's
me.
amazing that you are taking that and spinning it around and like, how can I avoid this from happening to other people?
So that affected me a lot. It really got me thinking, because at that time I never thought about health.
But you were in e-commerce, fintech, gaming. One of my questions for you also was like, how did you get into it? But okay,
so I never thought about health. So, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a health, but I'm a person that understands technology. I understand how to use it to instrument change. So I dug around a little bit, and then I was sick because I traveled a lot, like Houston. I was always on the plane every couple of days, going from one country to the other, engagements, fundraising, all these things. So I got sick. So I went to my hospital in one of the African countries. I'm not going to name the name. And I pay a lot of money for this hospital. Yeah. My doctor has my details, all that kind of stuff. I'm used to it. So I get to the hospital, and the girl at the reception says to me, and I was there about a month ago. And so she said, oh, can you fill this form? So, and because of what happened to me and my friends, I freaked out a bit. Like, fill a form again? She's like, yeah. I'm like, okay. but don't you have my record from the last time? So, okay, let me go get the file. I flipped out again the second time. So she then said, oh, we can't find your file. Just can you fill back what happened the last time you came here?
Wow.
So I looked at her. I said, I have to tell you what happened to me the last time.
That was your encounter with records, with management of records.
So they had all these little pockets of information in little places that was just, and this is me, I pay a lot of money for the healthcare service. I'm supposed to be considered the middle class elite. So imagine 80% of the people who don't even have the money to go to healthcare services. So that freaked me out on top of what happened. So I decided, okay, I'm not a doctor. I can't instrument change there. I'm not a healthcare equipment manufacturer, so I can't really do much there either. I'm not a policymaker, and I can't do much there. So where can I find a solution? And so I dug into data across multiple countries in Africa, and the results were shocking. 30–40% of people dying because of lack of data. People would just say, and I remember when I was young, they used to just tell us that, oh, this uncle just died. That made sense because the guy didn't just die, he was already sick. And because there was no data about him, nobody knew what was really happening. But they say juju killed him or something. No, he was actually been sick for a long time. So we decided that's how Afya Rekod came into life. Okay, can we build a platform that allows for people to store their health records, own their health records, be the curator of their own health records, and be able to use it to access healthcare service anytime, anywhere. That's as simple as that.
What a powerful story.
Yeah, it's a concept that I've heard spinned in many different ways at the time of blockchain, where blockchain was the buzzword and everyone was talking about it. Perhaps even now still there is some healthy initiatives in blockchain, but I heard this concept of storing data, health data on blockchain many times and regularly, and without too much surprise, turned out that whoever is the person pitching on stage turned out that they can't implement that vision. What makes Afya Rekod different in terms of implementing the vision?
So going back to technology, the one thing with technology is people propagate technology too much, too fast. And sometimes it doesn't make any real value to use cases. And when you look at saying, a lot of people say we want to do healthcare and, blockchain, it's great concepts, great ideas, but I just say there's enough regular technology available for us to even just be able to just build a platform that allows people to just store health records. Simplifying the idea and using the basic technology and then figuring out where does blockchain fit into this, rather than trying to build something purely on the blockchain. Again, I'm talking about people in rural communities who have no idea what you're talking about. Okay, so my target market first, so like people who live in, Kisumu, Kirat, all this, they don't understand what blockchain means. They just want to know, can I access my healthcare, my data, can I store it, and can I actually be able to send it to a doctor? Okay, can I just do that on basic technology first? And then decide, okay, if I collect the data in the right way, I can use AI to do a lot of things. Then AI comes into play. If I have to make sure the data is stored properly, then what blockchain models around security do I need to put into it to make sure that this works?
In fact, you start from the point of view that the many projects, they couldn't succeed because they released technology too fast, or they went straight into technology for the sake of technology, not for the sake of integrating it. It's something that was simple to start with. And probably that's where the adoption is always a problem, right? They say that the project fails because of lack of adoption. And I understand your example now. You say you can't just go in rural Kenya and tell them, create KYC your identity and link a wallet on whatever private key and public key. It's just impractical. It will never work.
Try doing that on a feature phone. your KYC wallet and your keys. People would look at you and say, explain that to me, Swahili.
So where are you now on the path to incorporating AI and blockchain into this? Because it is being
so the AI part, our platform we built to be machine learning readable. So that the data that's also being collected, we have an AI team of 2 people here as well.
So all remote because we're practicing somewhat like social distancing.
So we're all at home, working from home. We can show you that nobody in the office. So as we build the platform to make sure that it's machine readable and we have machine learning tools on top of the platform, and obviously we are simulating data ourselves to create some very basic algorithms around how we can run different variable insights. So yes, the platform is machine ready, it's AI ready, but until we start really propagating real life data, it's just another big fancy word. But the idea is that we will use AI to help solve some of the problems. And one of the problems was that, leading straight into it, was the fact that as we're collecting regular data, we're able to use AI to actually do what we call hybrid prevention. So now, because our platform is built a lot around keywords, so using keywords, we can actually map, geofence, and crawl information and begin to understand now 500 people last week just said they have headache in Nairobi. Okay, we don't necessarily know if there's an outbreak or anything, but we can send that information to the right agency. 200 people within a 20-kilometer radius, within a 10-kilometer radius, within 1,000-kilometer radius. And the reason why we started looking at this before COVID happened was because of Ebola. I had been in Sierra Leone and found out how long it took from day 0 to day 1. It was over 62 days.
Oh, wow, really?
Yeah, because even in Wuhan, if you think about it, from day 0 to day 1, I'm sure if you find out before the day 1 is the day when they actually say this is an outbreak.
Well, I mean, with China, there's probably a different, they were trying to like silent people as well when this stuff happened. But okay.
Day 1 is the day when you do confirm that it's an outbreak.
Yeah.
Right? But before that, that means it's already happening.
Yeah, makes sense.
So day 0 to day 1 is what really decides when the outbreak and how quickly the outbreak will happen. Because if you look at the traditional way of collecting data to say there's an outbreak, they have to wait for multiple reports from multiple offline static data centers. And in Africa, where a small dispensary is like a hospital, and hospitals are like 50 kilometers away and all these different things. Before all that data is collected over time, man 0, the first guy who recorded a headache, is probably gone. So we're thinking, if we also sensitize people to use a platform like this where they're collecting data, and part of what we do is to heat mapping around keywords that potentially are, because we have so many different keywords that we heat map all the time, we can pick up trends, and we can pick up, very geolocated trends as well, and then be able to share that information with, agencies that deal with these things.
So that's where AI comes in. And how about being blockchain ready?
So the blockchain part, we're integrating a security model for blockchain to actually, help store our data much better. And then obviously we're also going to integrate a smart contract. Just very basic, so people actually know that their data is secure and that they own their data and their privacy is a huge part of it. For now, those are the only 2 things that we're using the blockchain model for.
And as a user in Kisumu or whatnot, what would I need to get access to
a feature phone?
Feature phones enough.
USSD as well.
Oh, perfect. Okay.
Simplify, right?
Simplify.
Who's supporting you? What type of investors are believing in this vision?
So the first, in August, September, I went to the US last year after we decided to come up to build this thing and everything. So we had a doctor who owns a practice, actually owns an NGO in East Africa. He was actually the first person that we pitched. And it was exactly the same problem that he had. Because what they do is they provide, services for people who live in rural communities who don't have access to healthcare. Then every time they come back 3 months later, you have these women, they have pieces of paper, wrapped, and they're still holding it, and they're asking them what happened to you. So they spend the first hour just trying to figure out what's happened to this person. Or the first, so the logistic cost alone of providing, charity healthcare services for them was way more expensive than even the service itself. So with a platform like this, they can at least consistently get the people to collect the data regularly, and they can even interface with them while they're sitting in the US in first line. So they were the first investors, so they liked the idea. So that was good validation for us of, first investors were medical doctors.
And so your business model is a B2B or a B2G?
It's B2B and B2C.
And C also, and government as well, I guess.
Yes.
Right?
So our platform is free for individuals. It's like I used to work for Google, so we use the Google model. It's free storage up to a certain amount, but most people probably never use up to that. Like I always ask my staff, how many of you pay for Google Gmail? Like nobody, but I pay because I'm a heavy user. Exactly. So, but most people don't even know that you pay for Gmail, right? So yeah, that's a model, and then obviously we do a lot of stuff within the platform that allows us to earn revenue. But we don't charge the user, and we don't use their data either. We use trends.
Okay, and that's why it's anonymized.
Yeah, it's anonymized. Yeah, so
I see.
Because obviously you can't. The person's data is their data. Even their doctor, who they share that data with, only has read access based on what the patient says, or write access what the patient says.
That's brilliant. So you're putting the control in the patient's hands. Yeah. And then, but they don't pay for it. And the people who basically look into it. So like with the doctor wouldn't.
So the way it works on that side is, you're my doctor. I have my health record. I want to come see you. I send you a request to say, do you have Afya Rekod? You can download the app as a doctor so that you can be able to see. I will share my link with you. Or if you don't, I can send it to you either by a PDF or whatever. And then it expires after a certain time as well. Or I can leave it open for you to continue to visualize. So I get your reports before I see you.
Yeah, makes sense.
So I understand. And then as a doctor, if I also have the application, while I'm seeing you, I can actually update my consultation with you in real time, and you accept it.
Yeah.
And you say, okay, so you
I like this approval.
Yes.
So you can double check.
Yeah. So while you're talking to me, you finish entering it. I get a copy as a doctor for my clinic, and you also get a copy, and you continue with your journey. Yeah.
And then the people, so business model wise, the people who pay for it would be the people who want to use it on aggregate data level.
So we have also organizations. Part of our business model is we go after disease types. So HIV, cancer, diabetics, because those are the people who need to enter regular data to manage the diseases they have. And there are organizations that provide services for those type of people. And their biggest problem is also interaction of data in real time to understand what the person's doing, the drugs they're taking, because when Afya Rekod, you can just take a picture of the drug and store it. And that's it. So now they pay us to be able to use the platform to manage their patients. They do a licensing fee with us. So those are the patients that they already have, or patients who come into their system. And then also we do a lot of, we have now a few pharmaceutical companies who want to do clinical researches with us. They want to do a lot of surveys with us. So we have quite a lot of different types of interactive models where we make money. And also our goal is to generate, so our key slogan is we want to help rural people get insurance without having to pay for it.
Brilliant.
At the end of the day. So, and how do we do that? We also, one step is, I want to help you learn health education. And while you're learning, help you make money and use that money to pay for your insurance services or your medication.
Wait, so how are you making money?
So now, good question. So again,
you wanted me to ask that. Okay, go ahead.
A lot of research has gone into what do people currently do right now. So say, for example, we have some partners or NGOs who provide HIV drugs and HIV services to millions of people in a few countries that we mark who have HIV. But their biggest problem, the gap there, is that it's a one-way approach. So the guy comes every 2-3 weeks to get his drugs. And in those 2-3 weeks, there's no more visibility about what the guy does. And then in that, when he comes, they give him a leaflet. You have to read this, and then come back again. So their first problem is they want to be able to interact with the guy regularly because they send him SMS messages all the time, 2-3 times a week. That costs money, but it's also one-way traffic. They don't know if you actually read it or not. Some people don't even show up for their appointments or because there's no way. So they send an SMS as an alert. Again, the guy doesn't get it. So either with the USSD application, they can push that information to that person consistently. They can also give them alerts of when they should take their drug. So you can even as an institution help the person apart from them helping themselves. Okay? And then with the health education, what we've convinced them to do is stop printing these materials. What is the objective of you printing this material? They said, okay, we want these people to read and learn. Do you also want to assess their level of knowledge? They're like, yes, but we can't do that. So stop printing these pieces of paper because they're useless. And we've already asked your patients, none of them read it. They just pile it up, they use it for fire and all kinds of other stuff. Okay, so stop printing, turn it into a very simple digital information. The person reads it, they get it on their application. We make the application zero data balance, so they don't need data. The person reads the information. The cost of printing that thing, which is where my other experience as a CPA, cost per acquisition comes in, you break it down and you say, I will pay you 50 cents when you go through this process of learning this thing, and I will also assess you.
This is where you're gamifying this.
I will also assess you and know how much you've learned, so I can also put my patients into quadrant sectors.
Good patient,
and who I need to provide better services for. Then I pay you the money, then we take the money, and then help you use it to buy insurance.
Goodness.
So we've already tried it and it's already worked. In our small pilot that we did.
Wow.
Interesting.
Okay, where was this pilot?
Yeah, I was about to ask the same. How many patients in the pilot?
We tried it with 20 patients and a small partner who wanted to educate those people. And what they got, the amount of data they got back from that patient was, now they can also use the survey tool to consistently get data. For us as a platform means the patients is consistently entering data about their health, and that data is still stored. Even their survey, their education participations is all still stored in their record.
Wow, I have to say this is a brilliant model. I mean, it almost seems like now your background makes sense. It leads into this, and that's,
Never thought it would.
Digital gaming side and the fintech also, and how can we incentivize adults to enter in their information?
Most people is here. Just because you do something that benefits them, they won't do it.
No, yeah, exactly.
Because what we found when we researched was a lot of people, and I'm sure you know this, a lot of people are facing hardship every day. So yes, their health is a secondary issue in their minds. COVID is brought health right in front of everybody, right? But prior to that, when we did a lot of our focus group, we asked all these women, so if you had $1, what would you do? And you're sick. She's like, 76% of them. I'm like, well, I would first feed my family with the $1, see what else, and then I'll go into the bush and find some herb. Or I'll go to the pharmacy to maybe with the 55 cents or 10 cents that's left and get some prescription if it's important. Okay, before I walk to the hospital, which is 20 kilometers away later on. So now what that tells you is their survival every day is the most critical part, which is why fintech companies are so huge, because they're speaking to the most basic part of, but that is not the most important thing in life. But it's just the most basic part of that person's every day. So even while we're trying to provide a health service, we need to participate in their survival creation. So in participating in their survival means saying, how can I help you earn some money while you're entering and learning about your health? That's all it is.
Yeah, I totally second that type of mindset. In fact, also in the startup that I am with and the one that I introduced to you when we met the first time, I think earning and learning in that type of environment has to go together. The reward for learning, because otherwise the learning path is too stretched, is too long, and it'll take too long for anyone in an emerging country, whether it's in Africa or anywhere else in the world, to clearly see the positive reinforcement of learning something and then put it in practice. The needs are immediate. They need something today, not even tomorrow, today. So earning and learning at the same time, I think, is a great business model, because it clears up also the image. And there were many cases where I've seen the same concept being described on a blockchain with the addition of a token that makes it already just more complicated. Again, simplify. The moment you bring it to token and speculation, it becomes tricky. Have you thought of having tokens as well, or are you just going it?
I mean, so again, we've been on this blockchain journey for quite a while, and I believe in blockchain as a technology. I believe that, you know, tokenization of things will slowly create its own value over time. But I also believe that, you know, anything you want to tokenize without a usable economy is a false positive. And that's why a lot of these tokens, a lot of these things just fall by the wayside eventually. And the reason why the big tokens like Bitcoin have is because there is usability. Okay? And that's why stable tokens within economies are the one most people think about. So yes, it's something that we will think about when there is value to it. But just introducing tokens to someone where what is the use? You're trying to solve his problem in the fact that he's earning money from learning and he's participating actively in it, and you're giving him a token to do what with? Okay, so you can either say, hey, this is a token that you can earn, it's your choice, okay, but you still have your money in Kenyan shillings. So now you can train him what the value of the token is by giving him those choices, and then he slowly sees the value of it, but he's using the money to now say, okay, if you leave the money, it could be a token that we convert into insurance, but it's still money. And so, you know, for me, it's really having been involved with blockchain quite a lot now, and it's that I think the token or crypto work has to be well defined in emerging markets, because people just say, oh yeah, just launch cryptos or whatever in emerging markets. If you don't have any usability, and if people don't see any value in it, why are you creating a token? You might as well just have a reward point.
Exactly. Digital currency is the same as token, not from the standpoint of technology, of course, but in terms of perceived value. If you call your currency Smiles, or if you call your currency Ethereum, then to the user that they can't spend it at the market, doesn't make any difference in simple terms, right? They don't know how to make use of it. And that's where I like the fact that you are taking a very different approach compared to other blockchain projects that I've seen. The other projects that I've seen in the same space, they were more starting from the point of, okay, how do we make money? Then we must have a token. Token has to be on blockchain. Then let's look at technology. But you're doing it the other way around. It's like basic technology to start with. Then wherever blockchain can be a support and make things more secure or safer or faster or whatever is the attribute that you decide to focus on, that's where you're pushing. And then if there will be a need for a token with a usability and a reason to have a token, then you leave it for later, right? Do I understand correctly?
Absolutely, 100%.
Yeah, and I think this comes from, you know, your intrinsic motivation for doing this, you know, like where your heart is, where the patients are thinking about the patient first, and then expanding from there.
No, I think, you know, back to the question you asked me, why is my project different in the beginning? Because it comes from a place of personal pain. And I am thinking about how do I help people?
Yeah.
And also how do I help myself? So that's why I'm doing what I'm doing. I could still be doing fintech and not have to worry about, but this is a journey. So long, I mean, if I give you my full vision, you might say I'm crazy.
Let's hear it.
I have a 10-year vision.
Yes.
Okay. So the idea is to, you know, what we're looking to do is have what we call Afya Incorporated. That's health incorporated, health in Swahili. Afya Rekod is just one part of it. And Afya Rekod is a data-driven side that is patient-augmented, that helps patients to get services, and then off the back of that, bring in insurance models that allows us to provide insurance for the bottom of the pyramid without them having really to pay for it, or at very, very minimal cost, control that pyramid base. And obviously using AI, which then comes in, because one of the things that we're capturing on Afya Rekod is the blood type of everyone. And if you don't know one, like some people in Uganda told us, they don't do blood types in Uganda. They don't do blood types. She's like, what do you mean blood types? We don't do it here. So she had no idea what her blood type was. So that's still my go-to place for that, for just, you know, great comedy in health sector, you know. But if you take that, now we can look at how we can help people build virtual blood banks, okay, across the continents. And then we can also understand, you know, genomics. Okay, begin to understand why some cultures, why some people get sick, particularly in particular areas, why some people don't, a number of these different types, and then, you know, biome genomics, and be able to, because diversity genome is not something that is big, but genomics from a revenue perspective is a multi-trillion-dollar market. And for pharmaceuticals to understand genomics better, you need to understand data about the individuals. Then, so I also work as a director for the Nelson Mandela University, for the director for innovation. And I used to think to myself, why am I in this role? Until recently, it made sense to me. I want to build an R&D factory from a data-driven perspective that actually trains our robotic doctors. So we can put robotic doctors in African communities based on data. So I have a doctor who is in the community that understands the data of that community, that understands that community, and it's there 24/7.
Very interesting. It's like an ATM doctor, basically. You go there with your information.
And because we have a secure network, we can feed information to that robot doctor consistently back and forth. So now the community has, you know, an Android doctor. So Afya Robotics is where we're going to go into doing this and build the largest R&D factory in this continent.
Absolutely fascinating.
Let's step back for a second. You then say, well, that means that we can then solve, there's less people going into med school in Africa. We have way less doctors. The smart doctors are leaving for Europe because it pays more, okay? Which is why most of these communities keep dying nonstop. Then if you have outbreak situations like this, I put an Android doctor, they can actually go test people, they can sit with people without the fact that the doctor might die or get infected.
Interesting.
Apart from just basic looking after communities as first line of defense, then you can also get doctors outside who can actually use this model to actually be able to do what we call practical surgeries in real time, using an Android doctor as a first. So I want to build 10,000 Android doctors.
That's fantastic. John, what do you need to wrap it up? What do you need to build 10,000 Android doctors?
An R&D factory. But first of all, to raise the money for Afya Rekod so that we continue with our data-driven perspective first. So we're fundraising for Afya Rekod, trying to raise about $1 million too, because we're actually working with some of the counties now here in Nairobi, and Telecom, who's coming as our partner, and we're doing it for free. We're actually giving them our platform and the COVID model and the monitoring and contact tracing for free as part of our social good.
Okay.
Absolutely, and very interesting. We are running out of time. We'll like to ask you one last sentence. Diane, if you have a question, of course, but also John, one last message to the listeners as well. What do you want to say?
I think healthcare is something that we all have to take extremely important. I believe the core of human life is healthcare. Actually, not financial services. Yeah,
after years of doing that.
Casino gaming, other types of things, because we've realized if you're sick, you can't go to the farm. Even if somebody borrows you money, you can't do anything with it. You still go back to the doctor. So we should really value our healthcare practitioners, and we should be looking to spend a lot more money to develop a robust healthcare culture in this part of the continent.
Fantastic, fascinating. Thank you very much, John. Really appreciate it.
I want to put you and Bill Gates in a room to discuss this. This is amazing. All right, thank you so much for your time, John.
Thanks,
Ciao. Take care.